Bosh or with Pat Riley. He does not have that here in Cleveland. He did not have that the first time that he was here, and now everybody is so happy that he's back that there is not one person who is willing or not afraid to question or criticize LeBron. And I'm being fair when I say, look, he's not the whole problem here. I get it. But I bring up Austin Carr. I mentioned this last week. I'm watching the Cavs game, and AC, who's the biggest homer in the world, but I love AC, but he'll tell when anybody else has not done their job on defense. When LeBron doesn't defend, it's like a half of a sentence, because it'll be like, come on, man, you have to defend better than that. And then he pauses because he can't finish the sentence by saying the name of the person that he's criticizing. And I'm like, this is the problem before. You can tell me he won championships in Miami all you want, but LeBron did not have any accountability, and that's fine if you want to allow that atmosphere to grow, but that's exactly where we're at. You can't tell me that this LeBron James is the same LeBron James that played in Miami for the last couple of years.
Oh, absolutely not. You're 100% right there, Jerry. And the thing was, if anybody was going to hold LeBron accountable for, not just defensive purposes, but for, being the LeBron James that he was in this first stint, taking over games in the fourth quarter, if there was going to be anybody that was going to hold him accountable to that, it was going to be LeBron James himself. And we thought, at a point that he was mature enough to do that, but he's not showing it at this point. He's still playing that passive-aggressive type of mentality where he's putting more emphasis on trying to make other people better. But again, there's a very fine line that you have to walk there. Whereas, you got to look at it from a standpoint of, do I try to make everybody better, or do I put my foot on the gas pedal, be the superstar that I am, be the best player in the NBA that I hands down am, and try and win your team some games? That's what he was doing all the time in his first stint as a Cavalier. Now, of course, he was younger at that point, but in watching LeBron throughout this entire first season in his second stint, there are plays where he's gingerly going to the rim, where normally you'd be accustomed to seeing him throw down a monstrous dunk. There are other times where you feel like, he should be going to the rim. Instead, he's taking a contested jump shot. I mean, he used to take those all the time anyways, and most of the time they would go down just because he's that good. But, there's just really something different about this version of LeBron 2.0 per se, that really hasn't been getting the job done, and everybody else has to be accountable for those actions as well.
I'm telling you, it's so similar. This is LeBron James of the final two seasons here in Cleveland, and it really, there's no doubt in my mind. I mean, again, whether it's having a veteran above him that he feels. And when I say feel accountable, it's like at the end of the day, if LeBron feels that he didn't give his best effort, he doesn't worry if Kyrie Irving likes it or not. But he may have had enough personal respect for his friend Dwayne Wade that he knew that, hey, man, I can't not give my effort. Does that make sense? And then when you look too, like here the other night, when I talk about nobody questioning him, here's the thing. And I know you didn't travel with the team, or else I'd say you were in the locker room too. After that game in Orlando, am I the only person who did not drop my jaw to the floor when LeBron looked as casual as can be to the media and said, I can't lie, guys. I was kind of playing tonight in chill mode, just kind of in chill mode until Harris got me mad with what he said, and then I had to go put my foot down on him. And I'm like, when did this become acceptable that he can now publicly admit that he's in a relaxation mode throughout the regular season? Because there's the other argument that people make to me is, well, LeBron knows it's a journey to the playoffs. You can tell me that, and I'll give you that. LeBron knows that you got to play 82 just to get to the playoffs. But even if LeBron has a switch that he can magically flip on at playoff time, the rest of this team doesn't. The rest of them are learning how to lose every night while LeBron's waiting for the playoffs. To me, there's another reason. You can talk to me about the journey and saving yourself for the playoffs, but if LeBron turns the switch on in the playoffs and nobody else is able to because they've been playing up and down basketball all season, well, you're still not going to win a championship, except now then you can turn your switch on and they'll say LeBron didn't get enough help. Maybe if you guys, did it all together along the way. And that's what I'm saying with this effort thing with him is I don't care what anybody tells me. You can call him the best player. I don't think he's the best. I think he's top 5, but whatever. You can call him the best if you want. That's fine. But I know when these other cats go home at night, you can't tell me that Dion Waiters, whether it's to himself or to somebody else, doesn't know that LeBron's not playing defense, but he's yelling at him to play defense and not passing him the ball because he didn't play defense. And Kyrie knows that LeBron's not playing. Like, these other guys go home and they have to know that the pot is black just like the kettle. And that is something that is going to make this team not win at the end because these guys are seeing it. We can say, oh, well, we're just media looking for stories, and Eddie and Jerry are just looking for something to talk about, and the guys on the radio just need something to complain about. There's no way in the world. People want to talk about Dion Waiters. Dion Waiters is the kind of guy that looks at LeBron and says, hey, I know how to play basketball too. You're great at what you do, but believe it or not, I've done this once or twice myself. I think that's one of the reasons that he'll find himself out of Cleveland relatively quickly is because he's one of the few that I could see in practice going, hey, believe it or not, in Philadelphia, I played basketball before. I know you find that hard to believe, but I wore a uniform before you showed up here in Cleveland. That attitude has to come across to some of these other guys. Has to.
No question about it. And the funny thing is that David Blatt, it was probably either the first or second question at the pregame yesterday. He was asked about his feelings toward a player, any player, doesn't really matter who it is, when in regards to being in chill mode. And I was actually pleasantly surprised at the answer that Blatt gave after having to think about it for about 6 or 7 long awkward seconds before thinking about the right thing to say. I mean, you have to acknowledge the fact that he's in a tough position and he doesn't want to say the wrong thing or too much about a player being in chill mode. But again, that's a pretty prevalent thing with this entire team, not just LeBron. I think the whole team was in chill mode. Kind of like easy, like Sunday morning, yesterday, that type of thing. But, if this keeps up, Jerry, it has been said by a couple of more prominent media members than myself that the Cavaliers will not be a top 4 team in the East if this continues. I mean, if that attitude stays in place, I don't really think it's going to matter who they're going to bring in here, if anybody, at the trade deadline, because they are in the market for now not only a 2-guard but a big as well with Anderson Varejão's injury. But, I mean, you have to get that attitude out of there first before you can even think about trying to expend some first-round picks to try to get another big who can play in here for next year, because right now they're just not playing very good. They are not very good, and there's a lot of teams in the East that look a lot better than the Cavaliers right now.
And I'll tell you what, touching on David Blatt, and you hit it on the head when you said he's in such a tough position. Rookie head coach, although rookie to the NBA, but hugely experienced, obviously, in the course of his career. But, that doesn't matter here. You got a guy who's coached hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games and thousands and all of that, and you got players looking at him like he just showed up off the banana boat because they're not familiar with him. And it's funny when you said, I don't know if Blatt has lost the team. I agree with you. I think Blatt never had some of the team to begin with. It's not a matter of did he lose them. I truly believe. And you know what? Before the season, when nobody wanted to talk negative about anything, I said one thing to keep an eye on that I didn't like about the way the Cavs put together their coaching staff even though I like having a presence like Tyronn Lue on the bench because he's very experienced in the NBA, I didn't like the fact that the Cavaliers chose, and I know what they did, and if anybody doesn't believe this, you're wrong. The Cavaliers gave themselves a backup plan in case David Blatt did not work out with LeBron James. They made his assistant the coach that LeBron James was more comfortable with, so that if they do have to make a change, whether it's mid-season, end of season, whatever, that Tyronn Lue would be able to step right into that spot and hit the ground running with the team. And I think that was a hedging of the bets by the Cavs. Gilbert really wanted a young, new, fresh face like Blatt, and this was their way of telling LeBron, listen, we're going to try this. We think it's going to work out. But if it doesn't, we've got a backup. We've got a veteran coach. Tyronn Lue could step right in and do this. And I think that made LeBron go, okay, you know what? I'll give this guy a shot. But I always said the specter of your number 2 guy, when you made your choice, the Cavs brought it down to Blatt and Lue. And you chose Blatt, but then you hired, you know what's the old adage? I want guys that want to work for me, not guys that want to be me working on my whatever it is, job, team, whatever. Because if a guy wants to work for you, then he's going to work with you. If he wants to be you, then he's never truly going to work for you as hard as you would want him to. And that was what I thought the Cavs had put themselves into, is a sticky situation where you've got the second place guy, the runner up, but he's there on the bench. And that's the conversation that's already starting to come out, is that Cavaliers behind the scenes at practice are spending a few minutes with Coach Lue and having him pass the words on to David Blatt. And whenever you have 2 coaches and a group of players that feel they can be more comfortable with one than the other, and the one is not the head coach, that's a guaranteed recipe for a coach losing his job. And that's got me very worried for the job security of David Blatt. That's just not a positive situation for any coach and assistant coach.
Yeah, it's a pretty unique situation, no question about it. I'm not sure how I would have felt if I was David Blatt at the beginning of this whole thing, when they did bring in, a security blanket per se in Tyronn Lue. There's just a lot of I can think back to LeBron's first season in Miami, and they were kind of in a similar situation with Spoelstra. Yes. They were a couple games over 500. They weren't really playing that great, but people were still panicking regardless because, they've got the big 3 and they're not supposed to lose this many games. Well, you can kind of see some similarities between that first-year Miami team and this team, but luckily for them, it did work out. They did eventually make it to the finals, although ultimately they did lose to Dallas. But if I'm David Blatt, I'm concerned. I'm not too sure if I'm concerned for my job as of right now, because they could get hot out of nowhere. I mean, Jerry, you and I know this league better than anybody. This is a very topsy-turvy league. Now, I mean, if you look at the Eastern Conference, you've got the Toronto Raptors as the number 1 seed. I mean, we knew Toronto was going to be pretty good, but, raise your hand if you thought they were going to be the best team in the East. I really don't think so. There's still a lot of time for things to change, although it's going to be that much more difficult for the Cavaliers to change this. With the whole Tyronn Lue thing, I think he can help them work on a couple of these defensive miscues. I think that's what you hope. I think that's why they brought him in here. But one thing is for certain, if any of those coaches are going to get them out of this play no defense type of mentality, I don't know if Blatt's going to be that guy, because he's an offensive specialist.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you what, Vashon's got a great point over there in the chat room talking about what happened in Miami that first year. Because remember, all the talk was that LeBron couldn't handle this rookie coach couldn't deal with this mega team, and Pat Riley was going to have to come down and guide that team to a championship and all of that. And Vashon's got a good point that Pat Riley made a very crucial decision And I think it changed the course of the next couple of years for Miami. And that was when he stood up to LeBron for the very first time, when they had their first power play. And when LeBron tried to say, hey, man, this kid's not working, Coach Riley, why don't